What's today about? Today is episode 28, the 3 things an inventor is not allowed to do in 2024.
Yep.
Number 1, you are not allowed to sound stupid. Number 2, you are only to hire people who are specialists in what they do. And number 3, you are not allowed to feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
So tell me, Marcus, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question. Have you ever felt like you sounded kind of stupid in this journey?
Oh, a lot.
Okay.
No, it's not so much feeling like I sounded stupid. It's hitting points that you're like, I'm a smart person. I know a lot of things about a lot of things, but then this new thing comes up and I know nothing about it. Like,
Yeah.
even now, I'm dealing with packaging, right, or starting that journey. And I know you're ahead of me by a couple months with having to deal with some of that stuff.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, I know how to resource things. I have a general idea, but I have no damn clue about what this next step is. And I just need to sit back, remember that I'm smarter than I think I am, and then just tackle it from those perspectives.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insightful. I mean, what specifically is it that you feel like you're
Lost?
shortcoming on or lost on?
Okay, so to be very specific, I have a potential connection to like a buyer for a Home Depot, a Lowe's, and all this.
Yeah.
That person says, well, I can't sell your product unless it's already packaged and ready to go.
Sure.
The problem is each one of these places probably wants a different package to maybe it's a box that fits on a shelf. Maybe it's a hang card that fits on, a hanging thing. The problem is I don't know that answer. I also don't know that on the front of my card, is it a lawnmower? Is it a bunch of wood? Is it a trailer? Is it exercise bands? What is that picture? What is that thing? So if I'm going to have to come out of the blue for a generic packaging to satisfy this person's want for like, I need it to be done, I have no clue where to start with that.
And that's more of a feeling a little, not stupid, obviously. I don't want to keep using that word.
No, it's not stupid.
But that's more of a feeling stupid than sounding stupid.
Yeah.
Do you still find ways? You get these questions from people, right?
Sure.
Hey, can you give it to me in this and a that and a that? Now, certainly, we've been doing this long enough. When people ask us questions like that, we don't stand there going, duh, duh, duh. Yeah. You know how to riff, right? You know how to BS your way through that conversation.
Sure.
And in that respect, you don't sound stupid.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And that's because so much of this is the faith you build with the people you're trying to sell to, the faith you build with the manufacturers you're trying to convince to make your product for a good price.
Yep.
The faith you build with your social media followers, this, that, and the other. I used to communicate with my manufacturers in a really inefficient way. And the way you communicate inefficiently is by being ill-prepared and not understanding how to talk the talk. And it's not complicated. It's not a superior way of speaking. It's just understanding some principles and utilizing the tools around you to have a productive conversation with the manufacturer. And this can be with a retailer. This can be with anybody. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. Recently, Lance and I, we've been developing a new product, called it Invention, call it what you will, a nozzle for applying material smoother. And very simple product. It's plastic. It needs to be injection molded. This is what we've deduced after some research. So Lance is in the process of 3D engineering it. I'm in the process of sourcing the manufacturer. I don't know diddly squat about injection molding. Mm-hmm. Never done it, never even thought about it. I've never even had a product that had to be 3D rendered, right? I deal in straps. So this is all kind of new to me. Now I know enough of the basics to talk the talk, but what happened was when I was speaking with a manufacturer, they said to me, they asked me a lot of questions about the mold. What kind of steel do you want it to be made out of? And then right on top of that question, what kind of porting and holes are required necessary for the mold, my dear? And I'm just like, what in the hell is this guy talking about?
Right.
So you know what I did, Marcus?
Yeah.
To avoid sounding stupid. This is what everybody should do. I hope you're listening. We've mentioned it before many, many times. OpenAI via GPT, ChatGPT is a natural language processing AI model. It's free to everybody. They have a version 3.5 that can easily do everything we're about to talk about. Now, ChatGPT, to find that, you just, again, search OpenAI, GPT. It'll come right up. It'll be the first result. And a lot of people, when they got introduced to AIs like this, ChatGPTs, they got on there and they said, write me a letter of resignation. Enter. ChatGPT cranks out a very generic, sounding good, but generic, nothing to do with you, doesn't deal with your particular job. And then they got frustrated and they closed it and they never opened ChatGPT again. But what's important about ChatGPT, what's important to know, is you can educate ChatGPT on exactly what you're trying to do. I got to come up with another name. I can't say that one.
You keep saying it 42, yeah.
I'm going to call it OpenAI.
Yeah, there you go.
You have to prompt it to let it know exactly what you're trying to achieve. So I'm in the middle of this conversation with the manufacturer. He's asking the tough questions. And I'm not worried about botching it, but the reason I care is I want to get a good price. And how do you get a good price? You let somebody know that you are not one to be messed with. You've done this before. You've seen this 1,000 times. You're coming to visit in July, whether that's true or not. You know, things like this, they carry a lot of weight. So I hopped on my screen to my left where I had OpenAI open, and I got in. Okay, I'm dealing with a Chinese manufacturer. We're dealing in injection molding. He's starting to ask a lot of difficult questions, and I don't want to sound stupid. I'm literally telling ChatGPT the truth. That's all you have to do.
All right.
I said, the manufacturer has given me an option of 6 different types of steel for my product. My aim is to make 300,000 units of this product. My aim is to have a mold that is strong but not too expensive, and this, that, and the other. And then I said, here are the 6 steel options he gave me. Boom, hit enter, 3 seconds later. And within 30 seconds, I was completely educated on exactly what type of steel I should use for this mold.
So it told you, like, this steel is good if you have this, and this steel is good if you have that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Aluminum molds are great for entry-level products on short runs. They're often used because they're cheaper, this, that, and the other. Here's an example of a product that may be going in an aluminum mold. 718 steel is one step up. While it's not the strongest, it is a big leap from aluminum. 718H steel is even more robust, and it's kind of a good, better, best type of thing. So I found the steel that was a good. And I just simply said, as a matter of fact, to the manufacturer, we've had much success with 718H steel, and that will be perfectly sufficient for our product. Okay, next question. What type of porting, holes, and ventilation are necessary for the mold, dear? Oh, shit. Okay. Get on ChatGPT once again. And I go back to him. I said, considering that this product is only in the developmental phase, I'll rely heavily on your factory to help me decide where porting is necessary to ensure best product quality. Okay, so on it went. And so basically in a 10-minute period, 3 things happened. 2 or 3. I'm not going to do the math. But one thing that happened was I got educated really fast, trial by fire. Number 2 is I communicated to him very efficiently, and that was nice because I could go inside, eat dinner with the family. Number 3 was he knows I don't play.
Right.
He knows that I know what I'm talking about, and he knows that he's got a good customer lined up. So he's going to give me the best price. What happens when you talk like an amateur is that salesperson, he's talking to 3 other people just like you every evening. He's saying to himself, okay, if Grant purchases, because this dude sounds like a dweeb, if he purchases, he's going to have all kinds of revisions. He's going to fight me on the engineering. He's going to ask me and my team to engineer it. He's going to ask us at the factory to do quality control, which we do, but we don't, that's not really our specialty. I'm going to have to educate Grant. So the only way I'm going to get Grant's bid is if I charge him double. The only way that's worth my time is if I'm getting twice as much money out of this chump. So that is why you're not allowed to sound stupid. What other scenarios do you think ChatGPT can help from our listeners sounding stupid?
I mean, I used it in its rudimentary form when it kind of first came out to help me with like catchphrases and taglines for my product.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, who knows, maybe the thing I said when we just started this podcast, maybe it can help me with some packaging ideas. I honestly
can get you going for sure.
I haven't played with it that much. You've played with it a lot more than I have. And it is true. What a lot of people don't know, and it's very cool, is you type something in, and then you can add on to that without having to retype it. Like,
yeah, good point.
You just keep so it's, if the question is, what's the best way to walk my dog, and then it gives you an answer, you don't have to say what's the best way to walk my dog using whatever. You can just say, and now what's the best leash, and it knows that it's about your dog.
Yeah, you can open specific threads. That's I'm glad you said that. That's really important, because right now on my computer, on my ChatGPT profile, whatever you call it, I have probably 6 threads active that I'm using. Mm-hmm. Now, what I used to do was I would open one thread, and the first question would be, what's the definition of irrevocable or something stupid? And then the next thing I would say is, help me think of a tagline for this product. And then the next thing I would say is, reform this paragraph, check it for grammatical errors.
So it was a mishmash of thing in one thread, and now you make an individual thread completely with one thought.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Now my threads are grammatical errors and changes. Mm-hmm. Please make any of the following paragraphs that I place in this thread, correct them for grammatical errors, and help them for reader flow. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's the only thing that happens in that thread, and it works amazingly. And the cool thing is, I'm working on a project right now. I'm deep into this thread, and ChatGPT has like days and days and days of learning what I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And I accidentally sent it an ambiguous line, and it just finished the line for me because it knew the theme of what I was going for.
Yeah.
Now I have multiple other threads. You have another one for your manufacturer, have another one for your engineer, have another thread for Instagram video ideas. All that, just keep them going. They'll be saved in your profile forever. It is such an invaluable tool. The version 4.0 can do things like AI images, which I showed you, which are cool. I use them for the thumbnails on the YouTube videos if you guys ever see. Not a ton of value there. At the end of the day, you can't, we experimented with this. You can't tell it to make a picture of a guy using my invention. You can't tell it, hey, give me a picture of a couch strapped down in the bed of a truck with a TorkStrap. Obviously doesn't even know what a TorkStrap is.
Right.
If it does manage to make some strapped down image, something will be a little amiss. That's just a little bit too niche and specific. But if you just want to incite in your audience to think about outdoor fitness, sure. Please create me a photorealistic image of a pretty lady exercising on her balcony.
Right.
Easy enough. A lot of times for the thumbnails in this podcast on YouTube, I'll ask it, please create me a photorealistic of a man wandering a trade show lost with a briefcase. And those images are really cool.
Surprisingly cool.
Cool.
And accurate. But I mean, to bring it back around to not sounding stupid, I get the point more now. It's education. It's educate yourself, and whether it's ChatGPT or just doing a little bit of research to do that, then that's absolutely the case. And it is a huge thing. And you're very right about the fact that you're going to be taken more seriously and appreciated more, especially from a manufacturer, if you come to the table knowing a little bit more about, all these questions. If you keep saying, I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? You're asking them to do your homework for you, and they're going to charge you for doing your homework to tutor you, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of the idea behind it. So yeah, it's a great piece of advice.
That's well said.
Yeah.
Number 2, the second thing you are not allowed to do in 2024, hire anyone but a specialist. What am I talking about, Marcus?
You are talking about all those people out there who say, for $6,000. We can take your product from A to Z, from conception to prototyping to getting you a licensing deal or getting you out into the market. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, and we talk about that, or at least bring it up a lot in our episodes, and so do the guests. I think we've all talked about that. Some of our guests have actually dipped into that, and sadly, we haven't heard from anybody who's like, I did that and it was amazing and I've made a bunch of money and they're awesome. What I've heard is, I am frustrated. I gave them my money. It seems like they just keep going back and forth. They're not really listening to me. It seems like they're over-engineering simple things, like all that stuff. And it's true. Once they get your X amount of beginning money, and we've heard anywhere from $7,000 to like, what was it, 15 grand or something? $20,000. Then they have very little interest in bringing your idea anywhere because they've got your money.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's been listening consecutive knows we're beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
But the general theme is, when you go to hire, when you're an inventor and you're eager and you're pitching your invention on Shark Tank and you're picturing your conversations with the retail buyers, you're eager, you're ate up. You think that news crews are going to swarm your front yard and helicopters flying over. Grant, tell us about this new cup holder. It's the 10,000th version of a cup holder and we can't believe our eyes. You know, that's really the thoughts that go through your head. So what do you want to do? You say, I'm not going to go small with this. I'm going to go big with this. And how do I go the biggest I can and guarantee the best results? I find the biggest firm I can and spend the most money I can, when the reality is completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Number one, you got to curb your enthusiasm. Even if you invent perpetual motion legitimately, no one's going to believe you. No one's going to buy it. And what application are you going to utilize it in? Okay, good for you. You made perpetual motion, but if you use it to power adult toys, no one's going to take you seriously. If you use it to power vehicles and you implement a plan to unleash an automotive company, now you're talking about something completely different, right? So you have this invention idea. So you go to this big firm and they're like, wow, Grant, you're a genius. And for the first time in your life, you've been referred to as a genius and you feel warm inside and fuzzy. And this firm says to you, man, I can really see this in a Bed Bath & Beyond and a Home Depot and a Home Goods and even Walmart. We got 2 inventors currently getting into Walmart right now. They're in the talks, which is total lie. And so you say, yeah, okay, I feel pretty good about this. I'm going to give you guys my life. I'm going to put the 10 grand down and sign over royalties, which is just all phoniness. They're non-existent royalties. They just want your 10 grand. By contrast, what I recommend strongly is just take this step by step and only hire people who are specialists. So an example, you have this invention idea. You want to see it on a computer in a 3D CAD. Hire a 3D CAD guy. Groundbreaking stuff. Next, you want to send that information to a manufacturer. Do you go to a broker? Do you go to a middleman? Just go to a manufacturer. Groundbreaking stuff. Number 3, you're getting it manufactured. You want to get it packaged. Go to someone who does graphic design for the packaging and go back to the engineer to design the packaging.
I was just gonna make that comment. I mean, even in my case, to work me through that dilemma, obviously I'm still gonna have to figure out what images and what verbiage works for my product. But yeah, it would be like going to your Lance for creating a box for me or a hang card, and then going to maybe the Fiverr guy or somebody for graphics to put on that card. So it's individually picking people who are going to tackle that one specific thing and then take you to the next step.
Yep. Anybody who's maybe you struck up a conversation with your lawn care expert at your home and he says, yeah, I also do electrical and plumbing. And you say, okay, cool. This is an all-in-one stop. And maybe he does a really good job, but at some point something's going to get left out. Something's going to fall short, and you're going to be left saying, I probably should have hired a specialist in electrical. I probably should have went with a professional in plumbing. And now I understand why. And inventing is no different. There is no jack of all trades for inventing. You are the jack of all trades. I think you and I describe ourselves as that often. Know a little about a lot. You can be a master of none. All these things that you were told were bad when you were young are actually really, really valuable at this stage in your life as an inventor. As the jack of all trades, you know just enough about each niche to hire exactly the right person.
I think Richard Branson says it the best too. He's like, I didn't graduate college and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I hire the smartest people.
Yeah.
And that's it. Hire smarter than yourself. Don't have an ego about the fact that, you might know a little bit about graphic design, but not enough. So hire that person who's a badass who's been doing it for 10 years or whatever it is. Just get the best.
And then what happens when the graphic designer asks, hey, Marcus, do you want this in a PDF file? Do you want it in an AI file? Do you want it in a smorgasbord file? And you don't know what he's talking about. Thank you. My graphic designer is asking me a lot of questions. Please help.
Yeah.
It is, oh man, you never have to sound stupid again.
Yeah.
We're bleeding back into point one.
Yeah.
But I think we wrapped up point two.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to hire anyone but a specialist.
And that just to wrap that part up and make it simple, those too good to be true, we can do everything and we're going to do everything. It is usually too good to be true, and they're just not good enough in any one specific place to actually focus and bring you to an end result.
Nor do they care.
Actually, more importantly, they don't care.
Yeah.
But they also, like I said, a good graphic designer is great at that. A good packaging person is great at that.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. You ready for the last one?
Let's do it.
The third thing, probably the most important, that you are not allowed to do in 2024. There is no excuse. You are not allowed to feel like crap. I butchered the big rollout.
Dun, da, da, da.
You are not allowed to feel like an imposter. We've talked about imposter syndrome a lot on this podcast, loosely, and we're not psychiatrists nor psychologists, whichever it is. We just know that we've been there, and a lot of people are there. I did a short chat GPT search before this podcast and found that 70 to 75% of people significantly experience imposter syndrome, and actually a little bit more so in women. And there's absolutely, it's common, it's justified, we get it. But in this era of education, in this era of podcasts, YouTube videos, free education, in this era of TikTokers peddling garbage products that they ship directly from China, drop shippers peddling junk items, shoes that arrive at your door 40 days after you ordered it, only to find out it's a generic, it's split in half, and you rolled your ankle playing pickleball. In this era of charlatans and phonies and the ability we as influencers have to expose the garbage out there, you, my friend, are not an imposter. You are fighting the good fight. You are replacing the spaces of bad products and putting in good ones. You're taking away the threat of, oh, I ordered my child a toy and I ended up with a choking hazard because I bought it from an Instagram influencer who's trying to push a $19.95 product that they don't even quality control inspect.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, following this podcast, you are not an imposter, my friend. The world needs what you're about to put out.
And that's true. And I still sometimes almost feel like that. It's also funny when you're running your own company, and this one always gets me. Like, you're going to make a business card. What do you put on there? Do you put that you're the president of your company?
Sure.
It sounds, you do. But it sounds so funny because you think the president of a company is the guy, he's the president of Home Depot, or he's the president of, whatever. And that feels awkward to label yourself, but you really need to be proud and own your accomplishment as being an inventor. And it's okay to say, again, we've talked about this before. It sounds almost silly. What do you do? I'm an inventor, or I invented a product. for some reason, it doesn't take hold as something legitimate until you feel like I've sold 10 million units of my product. Yes, I invented it. Now it's successful. You're equally successful in making the prototype as you are in selling 10,000 units of it.
Yeah.
And or 10 million or whatever it may be. I mean, own it and be proud of it. And you most definitely don't have to go around labeling yourself as anything, but also don't feel weird or skittish when somebody throws you that compliment, says, oh man, that's a really good idea. Oh, that's really awesome. Or you did this. What did you do? Oh, I created a product. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so far ahead of so many people.
Yeah.
And absolutely don't be afraid of that.
I want to touch on something you just said.
Yeah.
That notion or the imaginary conversation you have in your head of telling people you're an inventor.
Yeah.
It almost sounds kind of childish, doesn't it?
It does.
It's a word that it's not often used other than a jokey word. It's probably one of the least Googled words on Google, I have sadly found out trying to promote this podcast.
It is.
It is a very niche, deep track type of word. And what I learned in the beginning was don't call yourself an inventor. It's okay if you like it. But when I'll give you like a little scenario. When your neighbor who you have beers with, he gives you a hard time, he's rough around the edges. He's the kind of guy that would probably judge what you're doing, especially if you're trying to get away from your 9 to 5. So you're having a conversation with him. He says to you, Jim, I heard you have an invention idea. That's cute. You must have too much time on your hands. A good way to respond to something like that would be actually quite the opposite, John. I've assessed my time and my value, and I've realized that my current income streams, when compared against my time value, don't make any sense. So what I've done is I've started a product development company. I'm going to efficiently get safer safer products in people's hands. And the exciting part is that once my patent is issued on my flagship product, my business valuation is going to 10x. I guarantee you, John or Jim, whatever his name was, he's going to be dumbfounded. He'll, oh, good for you, roll his eyes, but he won't have a damn thing to say to that. So there's ways to get out of feeling like an imposter, sounding like a newbie, because that's our fear, right? You go from being a professional. Marcus is a professional drone operator. He knows exactly what to do. Nothing could make him flake or falter in his job. But when you put Marcus in a new position where he's an inventor, now it's almost like being back to being an apprentice, right? Now it's like being back to being the new guy who has to prove himself. And as adults, we really hate that notion of going back. We want to keep moving forward. We want to brag about our next raise. We want to let people know, yeah, I'm pretty safe at my job. We just had a layoff wave, but I survived it, and I think I know why. We like that feeling. It's false. It's completely under false pretenses that you're secure, that you have a position that's well, I don't know. It's different for everybody, but the point is, you don't want to go back. So what you do is you figure out how to word the things you're doing in a more sophisticated way. Product developer rather than inventor. Passive income. Money streams. Time value. Things like that you can drop on people who are hating on you, who are nagging on you, and that'll put them in their place really quick.
Or you tell them to F off and you don't worry about any of their feedback because it's all crap and they're judgy.
That too.
At the end of the day, if you feel good about it and you're moving forward about it, it's funny because those same people, you come out of nowhere and you're like, oh, I sold 10 million, units of that product you were telling me was stupid. How do you feel now? And it's, oh, well, you got lucky, or of
course.
You're not going to get credit from those type of people. And
You'll never get over on them.
They suck. But yeah, don't feel like an imposter. I mean, it is funny how the term inventor, it takes you a little childlike because it seems fanciful. It seems like
that's a good way to put it.
It's like, oh, I have an idea, and you stick this on this, and it does this, and that sounds like a 5-year-old being like, I like crayon, whatever it is. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so cool. Awesome. It really is, and it takes such an outside the box mind to do that, and it's you are such a small part of the amount of the world who are actually going to come up with something.
Oh, you are going to be lonely,
Yeah.
brother.
You
are
are.
going to be lonely.
Yeah.
I have not met another Marcus. I have not. I talk to my neighbors, all 9-to-5ers.
Yep.
And I get it. I was one 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We go out to dinner with my wife and her coworkers. They're all 9-to-5ers. I love my wife, but her coworkers, oh, what do you do? Obviously, I don't say I'm an inventor.
Right.
At this point, I run a product development company, and I also am writing a book, and this, that, and the other, and that's kind of fun. That's a lot more fun than, I used to say I work at AT&T. I work construction. Oh, that must be hot. Damn, that was profound.
Yeah.
But now, you host a podcast too? You're doing this? How do you have time for that? Well, what made you think of your idea? So you're like an inventor, aren't you? Usually they're the ones who bring up the I word. Eventually they'll be like, so you invented something. Well, yeah, I guess you could put it that way.
Yeah.
Another scenario I want to kick you is dealing with your family. Right? I had to deal with that a lot. Feeling like an imposter when you're trying to convince your wife or husband to be on board with you in this situation. So an example conversation might be, honey, are you sure that's how you want to spend our money? Don't you know that 90% of businesses fail? And people's initial reaction is to take it personally, is to get defensive and be rash with their partner. But you can approach that in a much more sophisticated way. You can say something like, honey, I love that statistic. And yes, 90% of businesses do fail. But 100% of businesses started by good business owners succeed. Mm-hmm. And what people don't tell you is that 90% of businesses that fail, they're generally started by people who don't take direction well. And when they were 18, 19, 20, they wanted to start a business. Working for someone else was out of the question. And sure, they failed the first 3 times. Me, I've thought about this. I've done the math, I've done the research, and I feel really good about it. And as far as you're concerned about spending our money, I'm proposing investing less in this invention than we spend in wine in a given year. And I can guarantee you a higher rate of return on what I'm doing. That's usually, granted, partners are pretty difficult, but that might get over on your wife or husband.
Yeah. Well, and it's always hard. It's silly. I don't much go to Starbucks. And the other day I went over there and I just wanted an iced tea. And it was like, boop. Oh, and then the question, quick answer the question, which is, do you want to leave $1, $5, whatever, a tip? So, okay, $1. So my iced tea was like $6 or something like that. and I'm like, yeah, I mean, when you want it, you want it. And it's not knocking. But I'm like, okay, $6 times 5 days, $30 times, it's $120. I'm like, that's so much money. And I know there's so many books and there's so many things about weeding out those little micro costs and how much money that actually saves you. But it really did hit me that, like, just kind of joking against your wine, like how much wine do we drink or how much, man, if you cut back on one thing to make something else or a dream happen, you totally can do that. And then you come back and you have the money to buy all the Starbucks you want or whatever. It really is a mini sacrifice in one place can be such a huge thing in the other. But that was eye-opening for me. I was like, oh man, I could make myself 60 billion gallons worth of iced tea if I just went and bought the iced tea for this $5.
Sure.
Instead of buying, but yeah, that's a moot point. But it is convincing people around you is sometimes difficult. They don't see your vision. They don't see your passion for it. And sometimes they only see your passion for it and not the realistic part. But if you've done your homework and you're logical about it, then you're going to sell a lot more people than just being like, oh, I got this idea and do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the financial half of feeling like an imposter, or like the peer half.
Yeah.
What will my friends think? What will they say? My buddies from high school, they're going to harp on me, and my husband or wife, they're going to give me grief about the budget and my time. The other half of imposter syndrome is, how is the public going to perceive my product? I remember when I was about to launch my product, I was terribly nervous and I didn't quite know why. And something was bothering me, and my wife saw it one morning and she said, what's going on? I said, I'm about to launch. I told myself Monday I'm going to launch the product, soft launch on Facebook, open up my Shopify, go public, if you will. And I'm just so nervous that the first person or peoples who buy it are going to return it. I just feel like it would just break my heart. I'm afraid of how I'm going to handle that. And you know what she did? It was like a sitcom movie moment. Not funny, but just like perfect timing. She pointed to the corner of our kitchen, and there was 3 Target items, packaged, return label, ready to go back to the store. And she says, "You really think Target gives a shit?"
Right.
I was like, damn, that's true. I don't know how many pairs of kids' shoes I've had to return. I've opened up brand new desktop computers, set them up, only to have them crash 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many friends I've had with lemon vehicles. People's enthusiasm is pretty damn curbed when they purchase things. You're scared. Here's the reason you're scared. Here's the reason you feel like an imposter. And I just figured it out. When you work for somebody, you work for a week. At the end of the week, as long as you're not fired, you get a check. The boss looks at the work you've completed and he says, you are worth this much money. When you're a kid and you mow somebody's lawn, the old lady comes out, she looks, you didn't miss any spots, I know what I'm getting, here's the money. When you sell products, especially online, you're asking someone to give you faith before they see the results. Give me faith that my product's going to make you happy. Give me your faith that my product's not going to injure you. Give me your faith that my product is going to get to you on time. And that makes us really nervous because we're normal people. We're 9-to-5ers. We're inventors with a dream. Well, you got to get past that. And we talked about it on the first point. All the crap that influencers are peddling right now, the 3 things I just mentioned, computers, lemon cars, returning shoes, all that. People are numb to bad products. So stop freaking out that your product is going to be less than perfect. Stop freaking out that the first few people are going to return your product. People return my product every damn day. Every damn day. I don't even look at the returns anymore.
And you know what? It's really good, and I can attest to that exact thing. In the beginning, I was nervous. Am I going to get it on the market? It's going to break, or it's not going to work properly, or people are going to hate it. And so quickly, 2 things. I was getting a decent amount of returns, and I'm like, why am I getting this? They don't like it. It had nothing to do with whether my product was good or not, or they liked it. It's people weren't reading on Amazon that it fits. It needs a 1/4-inch gap between the thing, and all the returns, every single one, was just it didn't work for my deck. It wasn't I didn't like it. It wasn't it was a bad product. It didn't work on my deck. So that taught me very quickly to bring to the forefront that it works on a 1/4-inch deck and man, did that change that.
Great.
But beyond that, you talking about you have to have a leap of faith and put your stuff out there, because there will be no better feedback and no quicker feedback than actually getting it out there to learn about what you either did right or need to change for the future. And you can ask all your friends, you can ask your family, you can test it yourself, which I did all those things. But until you get it out there and people are actually using it on their decks, actually using it on their docks,
Right,
or whatever it is, man, that is the greatest and quickest feedback. And it saves you so much time, because if there is going to be an issue, you want realistic feedback that you can change instantly for that next round. And that was the most valuable thing. And to this day, I mean, what am I, about a year plus into my launch? Every bit of feedback I got, nothing has changed my product. It's changed how I promote it, or it's changed, my marketing or my direction. And I wouldn't have known any of that stuff. And actually, people are throwing out suggestions. Can you do it in this? Can you make it bigger for this? Can you do that? So don't be afraid to take the leap of faith to get it out there, and that's where you're going to get all your valuable info.
And you'll find out real quick if you're an imposter or not.
Yeah.
People will let you know. And my bet is, if you're listening to this, if you even have the foresight to teach yourself, if you even listen to one episode of an inventing, a product development, I don't care how you educate yourself. It tells me that you're doing just fine, because you're competing against people who, once again, got on Alibaba, had one chat with a manufacturer, said, how many of these can you ship? And can you ship them straight to an Amazon warehouse? Because I don't want to see them or touch them. That person has just shipped an untested, a non-quality control inspected product to an Amazon warehouse with Amazon FBA labels on it. And now they run a crummy ad on their Instagram. They push the product all the time. And they're allowing people to pay physical money for something that they've never even seen themselves. Mm-hmm. And who knows what these people are getting. So do not fret about something like this. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome today is I'm going through a bit of it myself. And I had to really assess why I felt like an imposter, and I had to really assess why I didn't. Why I can pretty confidently say I've overcome that. We've had a lot of really good guests. I've had a lot of really warm people reach out on the email. You've seen them on the Instagram. People who really appreciate what we're doing. And something funny that's happening is people are reaching out and they're mentioning things that we had said that I couldn't even recall. Mm. I'm thinking, why is this happening? Is it amnesia? What is it? And I realize what it is, Marcus. It's the fact that you and I have been doing this long enough to where we're starting to forget the details. Now, I'd always told myself I don't ever want to write a book or sell a course. There's a famous saying out there, those who can do, those who can't teach. And I'm a firm believer in that. That's why we're doing the podcast for free and all that stuff. It's a venting space. But also I'm learning that we're forgetting the little things. Those petty little details, opening an Instagram account when you're first starting out, being scared, being an imposter, all that stuff. So I decided to start writing it all down. And that quickly turned into a book. And the book's nowhere near done. You probably heard at the beginning of the podcast, I plugged the book. That's really to light a fire under my own ass. Candidly, I've written 9 pages. I got about 391 to go, let's say. But do I care? No, because I've learned enough skills along this path to know that if I can bring a product to market, I can bring a book to market. And if I can provide one person information, that's all the more worth it. So now I'm feeling like an imposter. I'm having to reach out to other authors, people who have published books, things like that, and learn about distribution, publishing, copyright, things that I've never thought about at all. I'm completely new in the realm, but I've built the skills behind me to confidently say, oh yeah, this is happening. I'm writing a book. It's just, are you going to be the person that helps me or not? Cool. And again, I'm not reaching out saying, help me, help me. I'm reaching out saying, this is what I'm doing. What was your experience with distribution? Mm-hmm. This is what I'm doing. What kind of commissions did you have to pay your publishing house? That's not for me. I'm going to self-distribute. That's the route I'm going with this. So if anybody wants to reach out on the email or Instagram, whatever, let me know. Hey, Grant, that's a dead end. We don't want to buy your crap. Or if you want to learn more, cool. I'd love to hear it. Either way, it's going to happen because it's therapy, just like this podcast.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, that's the same thing. It's that same funny thing saying you're an inventor, saying you're an author. It's also one of those funny,
I ain't saying that.
Well, no, but what you're doing is you're bringing information that everybody in our world needs and wants to know. You're bringing it into one place. You are hopefully Cliff's noting a lot of it so people understand it. And you run a successful 7-figure business based on this. So you absolutely have the credibility to write a book about it. I mean, are you the best business owner on the planet? I'm going to say no.
Rude.
But what you're doing is it's your experience, it's your resources, and it's bringing that factual knowledge. You're not spouting a bunch of crap. So why the hell not write a book? Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. That's nice of you. And one other thing I noticed is that here's what happens. On your journey, you're going to get on Reddit. You're going to ask people, what's the best book to read for inventors? Mm-hmm. You're going to get on Google. You're going to search it. You're going to get on Amazon. You're going to search it. And you're going to find a lot of things that are more about business. They're more about 10Xing, 2Xing, and Xing and Xing. They're more about principles of marketing. There's 1 or 2 books with inventing in the title, and they're geared towards licensing charlatans, crap, in my opinion. But anyway, when I would read these books when I was starting out, I noticed that really successful people, the Apple stories, the Nike stories, really successful people spoke in parables. They almost spoke in riddles, if you will, generalized phrases about success and hard work, completely brushing over the fine details. And I was always just shaking my fists at the sky. What about the details? You can't tell me that you walked the streets of China and next thing you know, you had a pallet at your front door 60 days later.
Right.
Tell me how you negotiated that deal, which Phil Knight did a really good job in his Nike book. But people, what happens is, the point I'm getting at is, I think that when business owners get so far into it, at one point they just lose touch. They lose the memory of those little things. They lose what it feels like to be in a 9-to-5. They lose it. And I can tell you, I'm kind of starting to lose it. So I wanted to document it before it's gone forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes sense. And a lot of those books and things, they're motivated. You walk away motivated, but without any answers.
Yes.
And that's the difference. Like, I can tell you, if you just keep at it and persevere, you'll make it happen. But how do I make it happen?
Right.
and there's the 30 things within that's what I need to know. And that's awesome. Hey.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
You want to wrap it up with a really cool Reddit question?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I got this morning, and really cool guy. I'm going to shout him out. He's Diamond Hands Are Forever. Little homage to the whole, what was that, the GameStop stock. All right, so he says, he or she actually, I don't know. He says, hey, what's your opinion on negotiating with the manufacturer for an initial order? For example, I have 2 quotes for the same product and both seem like good factories / pretty responsive and helpful, but one I would ultimately prefer is a bit more expensive. This equates to a landed in my garage cost of about $4.50 more per unit, or roughly $34 total versus around $30 for the other manufacturer. I plan to retail this for about $60. I'm deciding on an initial order of 500 or 1,000 units, but we'll probably do the 500 initially to prove the concept, sales, etc. Thanks again for your time. What do you think, man?
I mean, I guess there's a lot to that, and it's what is the actual question? Because he's got two different factories. One of them's $4.50. Was it $4.50 higher than the other for the same product? But what you don't know is the quality that's going to be kicked out at the end of that.
Correct.
So is it that he's trying to negotiate the $4.50 plus one down to the same as the other one? Is that it? Because he wants to go with that actual product? Or, sorry, that actual factory?
Well, I think he's in love with the communication and the professionalism of one, and he's in love with the price of the other. So he's torn in that way.
I get it. It's a catch-22 because you obviously want to negotiate, and you should try that. On the flip side, sometimes that $4.50 is worth having somebody who's awesome, who's a good communicator, who will back you up and give you a better end product. You don't know that, though, until you would actually get product from either one. I mean, you've said it in the past, know your stuff, come into it. Also, I'm not a fan of saying that you're going to order 20,000 units and then order 500. But in this case, if you're seriously going to order more, it wouldn't hurt to say to that person, I've got the funding for this many units. I'm ready to pull the trigger on that, but I need an initial run and I need to see that your product is what I need.
It sounds like he's past that. It sounds like that ship has sailed, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The whole fibbing your way through getting a better price.
Sure.
I think that in the current format, he told me later he's speaking to him on Alibaba. I think that in the current form that you're speaking with them, you pretty much got the best price you could get without reapproaching a new manufacturer or going to China and looking them in the eye.
Right.
And that's fine. I don't want you to do those things. What I think is, hey, if you feel comfortable about the better manufacturer at $34, maybe not the price, but you feel comfortable with them, you feel kind of warm inside, $34 is totally fine. Forget about the cheaper product. You're probably right. It probably would bite you in the butt. Now, what I'll say though is selling it at $60, that's a red flag. Why is that a red flag? You're looking at a less than 50% gross profit margin. So what do I mean? You want to double what you get it for landed. You get it for $34 and landed in your garage. You at least want 70.
Yeah.
You at least want 70 for your gross product profit margin. Now, even that's going to get chopped down and chopped down and chopped down between shipping, logistics, a little bit of fees. Amazon advertising, fees, unforeseen quality control stuff. I don't want to scare you. What I mean is maybe they come to you and they're upside down in the freaking boxes. Something super stupid, but you don't have the time. And so you hire a neighbor buddy, $100 to flip them over. Little stupid details like that are going to chop down that margin. Now, that being said, this is your first order. He made it clear that he's testing this. If you just break even on this one, I think that's okay.
Right.
It's 500 units. You want to test that price. My gut is telling me that you can probably almost always sell things for more. And when you sell things for more, you really train yourself on how to sell. So Yeti could sell your product. I don't care what the hell it is, but they could sell it for $299. But you, because you're a new inventor with no brand, you feel, and it's fairly true, but you feel like you should keep it at $59.95. You want to get under those pain prices. But I would encourage you to jack that up to $79.95, maybe even $89.95, and then work down from there, because what you can always do is lower your price. It's kind of tricky to raise your price.
Yeah.
That messes with the numbers. That messes with your conversion rate really hard. But trying a month of selling it at 90 and then saying, hey, everybody, you didn't like it at 90, but you'll love it at 80.
Yeah.
That can be fun.
I learned that. I didn't quite understand the question when we first answered, but I learned that lesson myself, and that was when we went with a manufacturer for X amount. I thought it was great, and ended up that spending a little bit more made all the difference.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to spend a little more. I just made my price a little more, and it was accepted, and we were fine.
Right.
So, it's okay to add, if it costs 25 cents more, add 25 cents more onto the product, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And now, what do you think about him ordering 500 or 1,000 units? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't hate that. In my case, I had a pre-commitment of 10,000 units, right? So what we did in my case is, and this was also the manufacturer who suggested this, don't get 10,000 units right up front. I think it was like 500 units. Let us make 500 units, get it out there, get feedback, and if there's anything that needs to be changed, then you haven't committed to 10,000 units of that product that then you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So for him, I think 500 units is and we don't know I don't know the product. Do you know the product?
He mentioned, I should have given you the background. I mean, I don't know the product, but he's like, it's like the outdoor boating recreation type of toy. So I'm picturing some type of a float, maybe a tow rope for skiing, something along those lines.
Something along those lines. Okay. I mean, I still like the idea of ordering an amount that if all went bung with that product, then you haven't lost a massive amount. You get to kind of market test it properly before you do that. I'm always a fan of ordering a decent amount, enough that it keeps. So here's another piece of advice that I got. The 500 sounds like enough to get him going. That would give him time to then order another amount if it was a success.
Yes.
Because what you don't want is to order 20 units, get it out there, they sell in one day, and now you're waiting 3 months for another shipment to come in. So
absolutely,
he can already start gauging if 10 go a day or 20 or 30, you're like, okay, this is a hot item. And then that prompts you to get the next amount.
Yeah, I would say if you're in a stage where you still don't have your Shopify store built, you still don't have your Amazon, absolutely just get 500 units.
Yeah.
It'll take you long enough to sell those. It won't take you a long time, but long enough to figure out what you want to do. If you're a guy who's already got an Amazon store, who's already been in e-commerce, maybe you ran a t-shirt shop for 10 years, maybe you know a thing or two, then I would maybe jump to 1,000 because 500 will run out pretty quick when you know what you're doing.
When you know what you're doing, for sure.
So,
Right. And it also is based on your funding. I mean, does he have the resources to pull the trigger on that many? It's an expensive product to manufacture.
Yeah.
$30 is a lot of money. $34 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Times 1,000 units. That's $34,000.
Right.
So it just depends on.
yeah,
on that as
I would
well.
go with half that, spend more like 15, 17 grand on the 500. I think that's fair. That's a lot of money, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, more. I'm glad that you didn't see that bill and say, "Oh, that's my stop point. That's my end all."
Yeah.
Good for you. Sounds like you got faith in the product. I do too, because you're listening to this. You kind of know what to expect, and you're making it yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what, I don't think you'll lose money on this endeavor, even if the products come to you effed up. There's something you can do to them to be able to sell them for $34.
Right.
And then you'll learn, and you'll go back to that manufacturer and you'll say, hey, dude, you screwed this up to high hell. Either prove to me you're never going to do it again, give me a discount on my next shipment, or sayonara, sucker, I'm going to the next one. So I think it's pretty low risk, high reward. I like where your head's at, and I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, and your price will come down when you can order more, and it sounds like you're already on that road to you're not trying to BS the manufacturer into giving you 500 units and that's it. If it's a success and it works, you're going to order a crap ton more, and the price will come down, and you can renegotiate it after that. It doesn't hurt to eat it a little bit in the beginning because you just have to, and they're taking a risk on you as well.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Totally. Look, this has been episode 28 of the Invent With Me podcast. 3 things you are not allowed to do in 2024. I hope that helped a lot of you guys today. We're really excited for the information we're able to give you every day. Thank you guys for that opportunity. If you're following the show on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. If you're listening, follow the show on whatever platform you may be on. Remember, guys, Marcus and I took the punches so that you don't have to. Take advantage of that, and we'll see you on the next one.